Okay, so the second part will be continuation of the earlier discussion on usage contraceptive. I think we stop at that for that at this time, um, but we'll continue with the measurements. How do we measure fertility? All right. So can you hear me now?
Yes, Prof.
Yeah, I'm trying to use a
Yes,
better
bro.
headset so that I can my voice will be heard clearly. So the most commonly used methods of measuring fertility uh, includes crude birth rate, general fertility rate, child women or child per women, something like that, a specific fertility rate, total fertility rate, gross reproduction, gross reproduction rate, and net reproduction rate. So all of these um, have different meanings, yeah, but all of them are forms of measurement, ya. Setiap satu merupakan bentuk-bentuk pengukuran, ya, the levels of fertility. Okay, so let's go to the first one, ya, the crude birth rate. It is crude because dia memang kasar lah, ya, cara pengiraannya, ya. So it's a crude birth rate ataupun kadar kelahiran kasar. I think that's the translation. So this refers to the number of birth or live births per 1,000 population. Yeah, 1,000 population. Remember, this is out of 1,000 population, not just women. It's out of the population in the country. Yeah, in a given year, in certain year. Jadi, so the number of live birth or CBR will be equals to the mid-year, the number of birth divided by the mid-year population. So the P here refers to the population of the country at mid-year, okay, and multiplied by 1,000 because we are talking about the number of birth per 1,000 population. Okay, so that's the formula to calculate ataupun untuk mengirakan kadar kelahiran kasar tadi, ya, CBR. Right, so B refers to the number of births in a year, the total number of births in a year, and then P is the mid-year population. Now, why do we use a mid-year population and not the beginning of the year or end of the year? Sebabnya adalah if we want to get the average, yeah, we want to get the average population for the year, right? Yeah, that's all. Yeah, the population that represents the year in a way, ya. Kalau kita gunakan apa nama tu beginning of the year, then it will be less than the definitely be lower than the average population for the year. If we use the end of the year, so dia lebih daripada tu. So that's why we use the mid-year population as a representation of the population of the country for that particular year. Right, so it does not take into account the age structure. Tak kisahlah ada umur setahun ke, umur 90 tahun ke. So everybody in the country is taken into account. Okay. So and also another thing is why it is crude is because it ignores the groups who have risk of giving birth. So regardless, ya, umur 15 hingga 44 tahun ke ataupun lebih dan sebagainya. So ignores that, ya, it doesn't take that into consideration, and that's why it is called crude tadi lah, ya. It's not to any population. So just taking into consideration the total population of the country and the number of births. Itu saja ya yang diambil kira dan didarabkan dengan 1000 karena ianya adalah mengira number of birth untuk 1000 orang penduduk maksud saya. Ya. So some countries have less having low crude birth rate. Some countries have high. Now, countries like China, Germany, for example, currently they have very low crude birth rate, about 8 birth per 1,000 population. Yeah, 8 birth per 1,000 population. And countries we've seen early on in Africa, for example, in Nigeria, they have about 55 birth, ya, ataupun kelahiran per 1,000 population. Okay, so that is the the first method. And this is the crude birth rate is the one that's commonly used if to compare the rate of birth between countries of the world. Ya, digunakan. Example of how you calculate it is this is just one example. Yeah, for example, in 1999, this is based on real figure in 1999. The number of live birth in Uganda ini dekat Afrika by the way, adalah sebanyak 1,106,953 birth recorded for that particular year, 1999. And the mid-year population Uganda was 22,894,973. So 22 million or 22.8 million people. Mid-year population. So based on the equation tadi ataupun formula tadi, right? So you divide the number of birth tadi by the mid-year population and time by 1,000. So you get a figure of about 48.3 per 1,000 population. So the crude birth rate for Uganda in 1999 was 48.3 per 1,000 population. Okay. Tapi kadang-kadang kita melihat apa nama ni nombor ataupun figure ini translated into percentage. So actually, if you translate into percentage, what people have done is to just divide that by 100, by 100. So it becomes like 4.8%, growth, ataupun kadar pertumbuhan populasi kasar. Right? But the basic definition tadi adalah per 1,000 population because it doesn't differentiate between old, young, regardless of the number of women and so on and so forth. Just per 1,000 general population. Okay, so currently, however, things have changed lah. Jadi, although they have changed, but quite slowly, agak perlahan kalau dibandingkan dengan kebanyakan negara lain. So the current population, which is in 2019 figure, the birth rate for Uganda in 2020 is 37.116. Still very high, still very high birth rates among the Ugandan ataupun orang-orang Uganda. Okay, so what about us? Kita di Malaysia, this is a figure that I got just for purpose of illustration. For example, in Malaysia in 2015, we have only 512,165 recorded live birth, in 2015. And our population then, ini menggunakan 2014 punya figure. Um, uh, I'm sorry, this is 2014 actually. My apologies. Yeah. Yeah. Oops, salah tekan. Yeah. Go back to. Oh, I see. I made a mistake. I pressed the wrong button. Let us go there. Okay. All right. That's correct. Okay, so 2014 mid-year population was about 30 million, 30.2 million. So in order to calculate the birth rate or crude birth rate for Malaysia, we have the figure. You just plug it in, yeah. 512,865 divided by 30.27 million. So the crude birth rate for Malaysia in 2014 was about 16.9 per 1,000, ya. Per 1,000. Jadi kalau kita bandingkan dengan negara di Afrika tadi, we are very much less, ya. Very much lower than the crude birth rate of Nigeria, for example, Uganda dan sebagainya. Alright. In 2019, the latest, sebab apa? Sebab kita belum lagi ada data for 2020. Actually, kita ada masalah sikit with the collection of data from the census. The birth rate for Malaysia in 2019 was 16. CBR, crude birth rate, sorry, was 16.64. So it has more or less maintained around 16. Yeah, it has decreased a bit. A decline. Also, this was declining from 1.5% decline from 2018. So it has been declining at a much slower rate now compared to previously. Okay, so if you convert into percentage, it would be around 1.66%. Yeah, birth rate. Right, but this is remember, we don't convert it to percentage. Actually, my apologies. This is because this is a CBR, yeah, crude birth rate. So just per 1,000. Okay, so senang je kan? As long as you have the apa nama data, record number of birth, and you have the mid-year population estimate, and you should be able to calculate ataupun come up with the crude birth rate tadi. Okay, so I just want to show you on this slide the apa nama comparison between countries. But kita ada dua benda sini lah, crude birth rate, which we haven't come to that yet. But I'm just showing you the darker color, yellow, dark color yellow ataupun almost orange color, itu merujuk kepada crude birth rate, ya. Jadi if you look at the crude birth rates between these countries, yeah, this is from the figure from the World Health Organization, merujuk kepada these countries, in contohnya Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, and so on, ya. Dan dibandingkan, some of these are former Russian, Soviet Union actually, ya, Soviet Union, and compare that with Russia now, some of this. Ukraine, for example, Belarus, these are former Soviet Union. Some countries, these are slightly less developed compared to this country here. So you see the crude birth rate dia masih tinggi, ya, masih tinggi dibandingkan dengan negara-negara yang lain, and in this former Soviet Russia. The Western Western countries of the former Soviet Russia seems to mempunyai kadar crude birth rate yang lebih rendah dibanding dengan negara-negara seperti Kazakhstan, uh, Kyrgyzstan dan sebagainya. And by the way, we used to have a few students from uh, Kyrgyzstan. I can't even pronounce this word, from this country a few years ago, but I don't think they are around anymore. I think one or two finally graduated from our faculty, yeah, in social science. Okay, so just sharing you that. So the crude birth rate, the advantage of using that measurement adalah it's easy to calculate. Ya, senang kan tadi. Kata all you have to do just to get the number of and then the mid-year population, and then you time that by 1,000. Right? So easy to calculate, and the data are readily available. You can get this data from the statistic department and all that. Yeah. Even the World Health Organization also do have that record. Yeah. So it's easy to get. Yeah. The disadvantage is of this CBR is that it does not take into account the sex structure of the population. Yeah, in other words, it doesn't take into account whether there are more males or more females in the country ataupun dari segi structure umurnya lebih muda ke lebih tua dan sebagainya. It doesn't take that into account. Itu kelemahan ataupun the disadvantage of using the crude birth rate. Okay. Okay. Again, related to crude birth rate, this is just one example in Africa, where, as I said just now, most countries in Africa, particularly Central Africa, where you have still very high rate of birth, ya, crude birth rate-nya masih tinggi. Ya. For example, this darker color ini lebih daripada 40 hingga 40 to 50 birth per 1,000 population. Yeah, the lowest in this lah negara South Africa. South Africa is advanced. We can consider that an advanced developing country. It's not a developed country yet, but it's considered advanced developing countries, much developed compared to the other regions in Africa. South Sudan itu tak ada data langsung, yeah, not available. Okay, so that's the first one, yeah, CBR ataupun crude birth rate. The second one is known as the general fertility rate. General fertility rate ataupun saya guna simbol ataupun GFR short form dia, GFR. So the general fertility rate basically use information about the age and sex structure of the population. Jadi the CBR tadi tidak, ya. CBR did not take this into account. Tapi general fertility rate it takes into account the structure of the population in terms of age and also in terms of gender ataupun sex. Ya. So it is defined, or GFR tadi, general fertility rate is defined as the number of birth, ya, bilangan kelahiran that occur in a population during a year for 1,000 women. Yeah, so this is just about women, and not only women, but women who are in the childbearing ages. Yeah, childbearing ages. In other words, between 15 to 44. Right, those are considered as childbearing ages. Okay, so it's defined as number of births that occur during a particular year for 1,000 women of childbearing ages alive at mid-year. Ya, jadi in other words, women who are still alive at mid-year lah, tengahan tahun tersebut. Okay, so the childbearing ages are assumed to be 15 to 44, or sometimes can be extended to 49 lah. Yeah, where Kohort 45 hingga 49 tu di mana kadar kelahiran pada peringkat umur ini among women adalah sangat rendah, and that's the reason why sometimes it's advisable to just omit this group, even though you may have some birth ataupun masih lagi boleh melahirkan anak, tetapi the number of birth at this age is generally very low, right? That's why sometimes it's better to just omit, eh? Because the numbers are so insignificant, insignificant. All right, so 15 to 44 years old, women, 1,000 women between the age of 15 to 44, number of birth. Okay, so dari segi formula ataupun equationnya is the GFR will be equals to total number of birth in the year, in that particular contohnya in the year 2020, and then divided by the number of women who are aged between 15 to 44 in year A ataupun in year 2020, for example, and then you time it by 1,000. Okay, so that is the formula. Jadi senang juga as long as you can get this figure lah. Yang a little bit complicated adalah you have to get the number of women who are in this group. Ya ini kekal seperti dulu tadi lah. This will not change seperti dalam CBR, that's the same number. But over here is the number of women who are between the age of 15 to 44. Okay, so you have to get that figure, and then you time by 1,000. That is the general fertility rate. And why it is general fertility rate? Because it refers to the women who are at the reproductive age. Okay, so the advantage of GFR is that it measures, the measurement provides a more refined measure of fertility compared to the crude birth rate. It's more refined, and it only requires the total number of birth and total number of female ages 15 to 44. The disadvantages is that the measurement is hard to measure, slightly harder lah compared to other measurements. Sebabnya tadi adalah we need to know the population of women at this particular age, age group. Also not widely used, jarang digunakan. It's only used for specific purpose. Right, so that's usually when you compare birth rate and all that ataupun fertility rate, biasanya gunakan crude birth rate, crude birth rate rather than general fertility rate. Okay, that's the second one. Kita banyak lagi, The next one is called age-specific fertility rate. Age-specific fertility rate ataupun mengikut cohort lah, if you will, So the age-specific fertility rate ini defined as the number of birth, bilangan kelahiran per year by women of a specific age group within the reproductive age tadi lah, So for example, those who are in the 15 to 19 age group, the 20 to 24 age group, 25 to 29, and so on and so forth. Jadi ini the idea is we will know specifically which specific age group has higher birth rates. Itu tujuannya sebenarnya. Right, so age specific fertility rate, number of birth per year by the number of women. So for any population during specific year, we have not one AS ataupun not one big fertility rate, but rather a several set of rate lah. Itu according to how many categories you have, how many different groups you have. Jadi kalau contohnya 15 to 19 is one, 20 to 24 is another, 20 to 25, 30 to 34, 35 to 39, berapa dah? I lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, and then 40 to 44. Six groups at least, yeah. Enam kumpulan, yeah. So we should have, according to this age-specific fertility rate, we should have six different, yeah, um, group, yeah, six ASFR, okay, for different cohorts. Jadi cara apa nama pengiraannya adalah um, we have the number of births in a year to women of that particular age group, okay, of that particular age group, right? For example, I put here A to A plus 4. Contoh yang tadi lah, 15 to 15 plus 4, which is 15 to 19 lah maksudnya. And then divide that by the total number of women age in that particular age group. Okay, so jadi specific to that group lah ya, fertility berkenaan dengan kumpulan umur tersebut. Dan don't forget to also darab dengan 1000. So we're talking about per 1000 with that particular age group tadi. Yeah, and that's why it's called age specific fertility rate. Okay, so contohnya in India, for example, I forgot what year was this, but this is some figure that I plucked out. Yeah? The age-specific fertility rate for those who are aged between 20 to 24 adalah 206.2 birth per 1,000 women, yeah, in that particular age group. In other words, it's very high lah. Okay, so this is based on the number of birth from this group of women at this particular age, and also the number of women who are aged in this particular age group as well. Right? India ni ramai orang, so you have millions, ya. Jadi didarab dengan 1000, so you get 206.2 birth per 1,000 women. And as the age group gets higher ataupun semakin tua, the age specific fertility rate juga akan turun. Right? So the highest among this group lah 2024 and also 25 to 29. But after that, after 30, dia punya AFR ini ataupun age specific fertility rate akan turun, ya, akan turun. Right? Then also in the beginning 15 to 19 juga sangat kecil. Right? So that's the idea is to study the age specific fertility rate. Jadi ada gunanya lah ya. And that's why it is used here, yeah, for some specific purpose. Boleh faham? Are you following me?
Yes.
I try to go as slow as I can, ya, supaya kamu boleh faham apa maksudnya. Alright, so that's the third one, ya. Third one, dan ada kelebihan, ada juga kekurangannya, seperti juga yang dua yang dahulu. So the advantages of age-specific fertility rate is that it is a well-known structure for measuring specific age group of women, yeah, for specific infertility, for specific age group of women. So that's a good thing about that, yeah. And also compare to other group of women dalam negara itu sendiri, ya, kita boleh compare which group of women are more productive ataupun with higher fertility rate compared to other group. That's a good thing, yeah. And whether they have good family planning. Remember, I showed you earlier on the tables between different age group in America, which groups are using different planning programs and so on, or methods or techniques and all that. Yeah, jadi those are examples of also age-specific groups and the use of contraceptive. Okay, disadvantages of age-specific fertility rate. Number one, you require a more complex data. Yeah, um, you must have access to detailed data. So without the detailed data, the result will acknowledged as not reliable. Jadi tak ada, kalau tak ada detail data, it's not possible lah. Agak susah sikit ya untuk kita membuat pengiraan. And definitely takes a lot of time compared to the other two just now. Right? Okay. Any question? Kalau tak ada, saya teruskan ya. Alright. Another disadvantage, sorry. Not good data to calculate population growth. So it's not a good data that you can use to predict atau to calculate the growth of the population. Right. And then, ya, kalau itu tak cukup baik, then we go for the next one, total fertility rate. Total fertility rate ataupun TFR. Now, what do you mean by total fertility rate? Kalau tadi S specific, kalau total itu maksudnya total lah, ya, jumlahnya semua maksudnya, ya. So the number indicates the average number of children born per women or per 1,000 women in this case. Yeah. So if they were to pass through all the childbearing ages, in other words, assuming that every one of the women passed through all the stages ataupun the childbearing ages tadi, daripada 15 hingga ke 44 tahun sebagai contoh. Ya, that's the assumption. Jadi, so how many children does a woman have? Ya, born per woman lah. Sorry, some spelling error. This is supposed to be. Sekejap lah. Kalau boleh correct sikit. That's woman, singular. Right. Okay, so we're talking about the total number of children per woman, born per woman. So this is calculated from the FSR tadi. Remember the number 3 tadi, specific fertility rate adalah merujuk kepada peringkat umur tersebut lah, ya, that age group. Jadi yang ini adalah cara kita mendapatkan total fertility rate adalah untuk mencampurkan, ya, the summation, ya, sum of all the ASF for each cohort, ya, untuk setiap cohort. Assumptionnya adalah all women went through the life bearing children at the same rate that women of different ages were bearing them at that. Jadi assumptionnya all women goes to that childbearing ages, and that women of different ages were bearing them at the death. Yeah, assumption. Yeah. The formula for this is TFR per women or per woman. Sorry. Okay, let me correct that before. I got to save it down. Save dulu. Okay, so a little bit complicated. Yeah. In this one, instead of instead of time 1,000 over here, you have to divide by 1,000. Karena kita ingin mengetahui untuk seorang perempuan, ya, average. Jadi what you do is you total up all those SFR. Tadi dalam SFR tadi adalah remember there are 5 different age dalam kohort tersebut. Contohnya daripada 20 hingga 24 tahun adalah 5 kumpulan umur di situ kan. And that's why you have to time by 5. Ya. So the SFR sebenarnya adalah the average per that group of women actually. Yeah, that's why that's the reason. Yeah, jadi kita sum up all that. Yeah, and then divide by 1,000. So in each category there are 5 years interval tadi lah. That's the reason kita darab sini. And assuming that the current birth rates are constant. One assumption is that the current birth rates are constant, tak berubah. And it also adjusts for problems of who is at risk of bearing children. Yeah, some kind of adjustment is made bagi orang yang siapa yang kumpulan yang masih boleh melahirkan anak, and also the different age structure of the population. Yeah? So that's it. Yeah, and then that's we can have some exercise later on if we want to look at this. Yeah, and all right, but I want you to know the basic concept. Yeah, konsepnya. Ini adalah merupakan perbandingan trend in terms of the total fertility rate by regions. Maknanya per women. Remember, this is per women, the average per women, yeah, fertility rate, yeah. Having considered all the different age-specific fertility rate tadi, yeah. Excuse me. Okay. So the one in red here on the top is sub-Saharan Africa, and this is where the fertility rate is still high, ataupun the total fertility rate per rate of birth per women is still very, very high, right? And then followed by Northern Africa, the northern part of Africa, still high but much lower than the sub-Saharan Africa. And then over here, the red down here is for darker red actually. It's for Europe. This is where you see from 1950 to 2020 here. But this is the rest here are just projections, by the way. And this is where you should look at the current one over here. So the current one is, if you look at that, yeah, even Asia pun sudah close to 2.0, close to the replacement level. Okay, and soon we will have by 2030 to 2040 we will have below replacement level, and that's where you will see the population will decline later on. Yeah, as 2050, for example, you see population of the world. In most part of the world except for African countries. Right, so jadi itu merupakan trends ya in terms of total. So in other words, the average number of children per woman have been decreasing. Yeah, and it has started long time ago among countries in Europe, but it is also closely followed by some countries in other parts of the world as well. Yeah, in other parts of the world. So, okay, that is a trend. Sorry. Okay. All right. Then also this is also another graph just to show you the trends in terms of the world fertility. Again, this is per women ya, untuk setiap apa nama ni wanita secara puratanya. Right, 1990 is in blue. The brown or red color here is for the year 2000, and then the green one is for 2008. So we see the trend from 1990 to the year 2008, where the trend is the world fertility has been decreasing, yeah, in all countries of the world. But in different parts, in the most developed countries, for example, Europe and also Oceania, the rate of world fertility memang lama dah kurang daripada 3, right? Europe is very serious matter here. Europe um, has fertility rate, total fertility rate kurang daripada 2, right? That's below the replacement level. Okay, so but Asia, Africa still, this is the worry now. Yeah, African countries where they, even though they have decreased, yeah, the number of birth per women have decreased, but still high compared to many parts of the world except for Mediterranean lah. Okay, itu satu data yang sangat sangat penting ya. Alright, jadi move on ya to, I've mentioned this a few times berkenaan dengan replacement level fertility. So according to the United Nations Population Division, a total fertility rate of about 2.1 children per woman is called replacement level of fertility. 2.1 is just average. There's no 2.5% or 2.1%. This is just about average number of children. Okay, so that is the replacement level fertility. Kurang daripada itu, ianya akan menyebabkan populasi secara keseluruhannya akan decline ataupun turun. Right? So the replacement level of fertility is the level of fertility at which a population exactly replace from one generation to the next. Jadi generasi akan maintain the size of the population as it is. Ya, kalau lebih daripada replacement level, maksudnya the population will increase. Kalau kurang daripada itu, will not be able to replace the former generation lah, generasi sebelum kita contohnya. Ya, so in other words, kalau generasi kamu mungkin replacement levelnya adalah ataupun fertility-nya kurang daripada 2, maka the next generation after you will see a decline in the growth in the population and also in terms of the total population level. Ya, jadi itu maksudnya. That's why it is called replacement level tadi. Right. So it is the average number of children good enough ataupun sufficient enough to replace the parents tadi. Remember, in having children, you need parents kan, husband and wife, 2 orang. Jadi to replace the parents, both parents, husband and your mother and your father, for example, so you should have brothers and sisters, kurang-kurangnya 2 orang, brother and sisters, ya, ataupun sisters or brothers, whatever. Adik-beradik lah maksud saya. In the coming generation, right? So at least 2 orang. Kurang daripada itu, you have problem, ya, in terms of maintaining the population. Itu the concept of replacement level tadi. Okay, so just to touch on that a bit. Okay, going back to total fertility tadi, issue tadi, the advantages of having total fertility rate is that it focuses on how many children women would give birth to instead of the total birth from population. Jadi itu spesifik lah, lebih merujuk kepada seorang wanita atau perempuan. Ya. Okay, so alright, so disadvantages there adalah it does not take into account the children given birth to by women who are above normal childbearing age group tadi. Right? So orang anak yang dilahirkan contohnya ya dilahirkan oleh perempuan yang berumur 45 ke atas tidak diambil kira. It's not taken into account. Itu je lah masalah ataupun disadvantage di total fertility rate. Karena ianya hanya terhad kepada the child bearing age from 15 to 44. And for that matter, kalau ada anak yang dilahirkan sebelum seorang wanita itu mencapai umur 15 tahun, for example, ada rare cases, very rare cases where a girl, I would consider a girl because they're still young anyway, yang berumur 14 tahun, 13 tahun yang telah, who happens to be pregnant for some reason, yeah, unfortunate reason, that is not also taken into account. That shouldn't be conceiving anyway at that age. Yeah? And quite useless. Total fertility rate is quite useless without the age-specific fertility rate. And by the way, because the total fertility rate tadi menggunakan maklumat berkenaan dengan age-specific fertility rate. If you don't have this data, that figure, you will not be able to come out with the total fertility rate. And that's why it is useless without the age-specific fertility rate data tadi. Okay. Fifth one, yang kelima. Right. Masih ingat ke berapa kita ada tadi? Gross. We have general fertility. The third one apa? Saya pun terlupa. So we have the total fertility, we have the age-specific fertility, we have the total fertility. So we have 4 already, yeah. And then the fifth one is gross reproduction rate, yeah? Gross reproduction rate. Apa maksud GRR ni? It's quite similar to the total fertility rate, tetapi bezanya, the difference is only female births are considered. Jadi hanya melihat kepada anak perempuan, ya, anak perempuan yang dilahirkan. Jadi anak lelaki ni dia tak boleh melahirkan anak. That's the issue lah. Itu sebenarnya the reason behind this. It's only girls and women who are able to have babies. Okay, jadi gross reproduction rate ini hanya menumpukan kepada berapa orang anak perempuan yang dilahirkan, ya, because it is concerned with reproduction. Okay, so it is in other words, the ability of population to sustain its size over the generation. Jadi kalaulah secara hypotheticalnya kita tak ada anak perempuan secara so happen lah 100% lelaki, tak ada anak perempuan. What is going to happen to the world? Apa yang akan terjadi pada populasi? Tak akan tumbuh kan? Akan berkurangan tahun demi tahun. In other words, no new birth. Ya, tidak ada wanita yang akan melahirkan anak. Right? So that's the extreme lah. Yeah. Alright. So if each woman has at least one daughter, who later had at least one daughter, the reproduction will be achieved. Kan? Setuju? Hello?
Yes. Yes, agree.
Setuju, Prof.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that you are with me. Okay, so that's the reason, ya. Mesti ada anak perempuan. Kalau tidak, there is no reproduction. Yeah. So every generation in a family must have a daughter. Kalau tidak adalah anak generation ataupun apa nama tu keluarga tersebut will end eventually. Yeah. Tidak ada, there's no future in terms of future generation for the family. There's no anak perempuan lah as far as any lineage tadi. Okay, of course lah, if you have a boy, you get married to a girl, to okay lah from the other side, of the family. Okay, so if each woman has at least one daughter, who later had at least one daughter of herself, then reproduction will be achieved. Okay, so kepentingannya ada sekurang-kurangnya ada seorang anak perempuan that will ensure reproduction. Right. So dari segi formulanya, the gross reproduction rate adalah sama dengan di total fertility rate tadi didarabkan dengan the number of female childbirth ataupun female birth, bilangan anak perempuan yang dilahirkan, dan dibagikan dengan the total number of birth. Okay, so maksudnya kalau kita lihat di sini, if the number of female births are less than the number of male birth, maka nilai GRA itu makin rendah lah, ya, kurang daripada 1. Right? So if it is if the correct, betul ya, kurang daripada bukan kurang daripada 1 sebenarnya, kurang daripada 0.5. Alright. Okay. So assumption ya adalah a baby girl will survive through all the reproductive cycle. Jadi the assumption sini adalah that the daughter who is born will be able to live through all the reproductive age, yaitu daripada umur 15 tahun hingga ke umur 14 tahun. That's the assumption. Okay. All right, so that's the gross reproduction rate. So if we have more female birth, maknanya there is a likelihood that the population will increase ataupun at least maintain lah, ya, dibandingkan dengan populasi yang mempunyai kurang kelahiran anak perempuan. Because anak perempuan adalah the one which will ensure the future generations. Yeah. Okay, so another, probably the last one is the net reproduction rate. Net reproduction rate ataupun saya gunakan NRR di sini refers to the ataupun interpreted as the average number of daughters of a woman will have. Ya, average number of daughters. Ya. Jadi yang awal tadi GRA itu yang merujuk kepada the number of female girls or daughters were born. Ya. The net reproduction rate adalah average number of daughters of a woman will have. Jadi, okay, so she has children during her reproductive years, according to assumption, yeah, that she has children throughout her reproductive years, yeah, according to the current SSR, and her daughters of the woman tadi will have her daughters survive to an age at which they can bear at least one daughter. Itu penyambungan lah sebenarnya. Women have a daughter ataupun mempunyai anak, and then at least one of the children born is a daughter who or daughters who will survive to a childbearing age, yang boleh seterusnya mempunyai anak perempuan juga. Ya. So this is sometimes known as the generation replacement rate. Generation replacement rate, and it represents the number of female children that a female child can expect to bear or to have, taking into account dying. Ya, jadi ini mengambil kira lah risiko kematian sebelum mencapai ataupun sebelum the end of her reproductive years, the end of sebelum umur 44 tahun, atau sebelum 45 tahun. Okay, so generation replacement rate ataupun net reproduction rate tadi. Ya. Okay, so the net reproduction rate sometimes ataupun kadang-kadang disebut ataupun cited digunakan dalam when people talk about fertility, yeah, fairly often cited measure of fertility, and is also presented as the index of generational replacement, ya, indeks apa namanya, penggantian generasi, ya, indeks penggantian generasi ataupun indeks of generational replacement. So maksudnya kalau nilai NRR adalah sama satu equals to 1, maknanya there is a replacement. In other words, so you have at least one, you have one daughter, yeah, then there is a replacement level. If you have less than one, yeah, maksudnya on average, we're talking about average ya, kalau NRR is less than one, maka what it means also that some families do not have one, at least one daughter kan. So the eventual apa namanya kesannya nanti, ya, effect is population will decline if the NRR ataupun net reproduction rate is less than one. If the net reproduction rate is more than one, maka that will lead to further population growth. Ya, pertumbuhan populasi akan berlaku if the net reproduction rate is higher than one. Okay. All right. So question: is the net reproduction rate equivalent to the rate of population growth? Not quite. Yeah, not quite, but they are related, right? In other words, the value tu tak sama lah. The rate of population growth are expressed normally in terms of percentage. Yeah. So yeah, but it doesn't have to be in terms of NRR. Yeah? But they are related, closely related. In other words, if NRR tu apa nama tu lebih daripada satu, that means the rate of population growth meningkat. Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next slide is on the regional references in fertility transition from 1950 to projected to 2050. Yeah, projected up to 2050 by the different regions of the world. Yeah, classified according to developed, less developed, and least developed countries. Yeah. Jadi the total fertility rates have been which is indication of the number of children born per woman lah, in other words, ya. Itu maknanya total fertility rate tadi. Jadi it has been well, it has started high in the beginning. In other words, in 1950, 1955, among the least and also less developed countries, more than 6 children per woman on average, ya, bagi setiap perempuan di negara yang kurang maju dan yang sangat kurang maju. Right? Or yang sedang membangun negara yang kurang maju. And among the more developed regions or developed countries, the number of children per woman in 1950, 1955 was slightly less than 3 on average. Then by the year 2000 and 2005, the more developed regions have already gone beyond ataupun below 2.0. Yeah, the average was 1.5 per women, number of children per woman then in 2000. But there was a sudden increase. Yeah, into expected. Sorry, this is projected. I think things would change. Yeah, maybe some socio-cultural factors, maybe some economic factors play its role. Know that people will be concerned about the danger of having less number of children born per woman that could jeopardize the economy and so on and so forth lah. So it is projected that even among the more developed regions there will be more concern, but still on average dia punya total fertility rates ataupun the number of children born per woman would still be below 2.0, below the replacement level tadi. among the developing countries ataupun less developed regions, it is expected that by the year 2050, that on average there will be about 2 children born per woman. Okay, 2 children born per woman. All right. Yeah, okay. Among the least developed countries, negara yang sangat kurang maju ni juga mengalami keturunan ataupun penurunan, keturunan pula. Penurunan, decline in the population, in the birth rate, birth rate, number of children per woman, juga akan turun. So by this time you will see that there will be the population world population will decline, actually, ataupun the rate of growth, I'm saying, rate of growth population will be drastically declining by then, right? Okay. Next slide is with regard to the changes in the age-specific fertility rates in the context of fertility transition. I'm looking at the transition in terms of the fertility rates, ya. Contoh di sini, kalau kamu boleh lihat, for example, in Mexico, in between 1971 and also 2001, the one in dotted line is the dotted line is the figure for 2000, or the graph for 2001, and the one in the gray line here is the for total fertility rates for 1971. So that there is a big difference between the two periods. But the overall impact, kesannya adalah masih, dari segi percent decline. This is the decline, So what it does is it has an effect on the population, declining percent of the population as well as a result of the decline in total fertility rate. Sama juga di India, right? Di India, tapi dari segi percent of decline dia this is ngikut umur lah, of course, you know that, right? So as the age gets higher, as group get higher towards the end of the reproductive years, the rate semakin kurang, total fertility, age specific fertility, So the same thing with Jordan, but you can see the differences, among different countries, in terms of the changes in the SFR. Mexico, good graphs to show that the even the peak at 25, 29 is not that high, Tapi in the case of India, the peak adalah pada umur 20, around 20, maybe this region 20, 24, sedangkan di Mexico is around 25, 29, and then in Jordan also around that figure. So tapi the total fertility rate adalah lebih tinggi lah di Jordan, compared to 747 1979 and in 1997. The different years, of course, these are based on different figures available. 4.5 in 1987 for Jordan and 2.6 for Mexico. Jadi in India has gone down from 5.9 children per woman to 3.0 now. It's a good sign, It's a good sign in terms of the population. Tapi Kenya, ini yang pelik nih. Yang Kenya ini 1997 almost 8 children per women. Tapi sekarang ini walaupun sudah turun masih tinggi, kalau dibandingkan dengan negara lain. But it's a good sign also because it is declining. It is declining. That's an important thing, declining there. But a much slower rate compared to Mexico, compared to Jordan and also India. So these are some of the interesting observation berkenaan dengan the changes in the age specific fertility rate, also the impact on the total fertility. In England, this is an example of a developed country. There was a very high percentage of decline, 100%. Kalau di sini tadi di India was slightly less than 80% decline from 1971 to compared to 2001 compared to 1971. Di Jordan pun lebih kurang sama, tetapi di Mexico tu it's about 80%, very big decline. Yeah. The Kenya, as I said just now, there is a positive sign, but the overall decline percentage decline is slightly less, slightly less than 70%. Yeah. Di England pula 100% decline. In other words, kalau dulunya 4,0, for example, ya. In the case this is the beginning of industrial revolution, where they have TFR ataupun total fertility rate, itu number of children per woman 5.6. Sekarang ni 2005 is 1.8 lah. So in other words, comparing 1800 to 2005, of course, perhaps more than 100%, yeah, but that's the maximum anyway. Okay, so this is per thousand, yeah, number of birth per ASF per thousand women. Alright, so itu juga merupakan satu trend ya di negara sudah maju. In China, interestingly, in China, the fertility transition in China is also showing very drastic decline in the total fertility rate, transition from at one time very high 6 to 5 above, yeah, above 5 per children per women, and there are certain events that occurred during this time. For example, in the 1960s, the famous famine that occurred in China, yeah, crop failure, but so many people, so there's not enough food and so on. And then the introduction, of course, there's in between here. They have this policy also concerned about having two large family and so on, yeah. And then they started the family planning program in China in 1971 to encourage smaller families, right? And then eventually the start of one-child policy campaign in 1979. That's the starting of the one-child policy campaign, and that has a drastic impact on the total fertility rates, yeah, in China, right? So now China is already having less than 2 child per woman, yeah. So that explains why the rate of growth, population growth in China is slowing down, yeah, slowing down. Okay, so that's the transition, yeah, fertility transition in China. United States pula, US, right? Interesting juga dia punya transition. At one time they were already quite low, yeah, in 1940 during the Second World War and so on, yeah. They were hold on, these are different cohort, different age specific fertility rate, in other words, yeah. So this line here refers to the one who are aged between 30 to 34. The one in solid black here is referring to the total fertility rate. The gray color here is referring to this group 20 to 24. And then the dotted line here refers to those who are 25 to 29. Jadi what you can see also is that during this period, 1950 plus to 60, this is the booming period, booming of babies. In other words, peak of baby boom. It started after the Second World War. I think I remember I told you about this. When during the World War, 1940, 1945, so on, all the young, and bukan all lah, most of the young men were sent uh, to fight, yeah, to the war in Europe and so on. And then when the war ended, they came back. Remember, all of them young. Most of them were young. Some were married, but many were still bachelors. But when they come back, they got married and have families, and that's the time when they have babies. All of a sudden, there was boom, yeah, booming in the number of children born in US during that time, and that refers to the booming period. Yeah, baby boom they call it. Yeah. Okay, so it picked up in 1960. That's the peak of it, and then after that it slows down. So actually that's the trend. Tapi among this group, the one yang apa nama ni, yang paling tinggi adalah umur 20-24 tahun. That's you can see. Yeah, the younger. That's the most in terms of the age specific fertility rate is the highest among that group, among cohort tersebut lah, ya, group of women, followed by the 25 to 39. The one yang ini adalah after 30 years old semakin berkurangan, ya, semakin berkurangan. Okay, and interesting also, if you follow this 30 to 34 age specific fertility rate, sekarang ini the tendency is that um, apa nama ni, trennya meningkat, ya. It's going up. Kalau dulu turun in 1975, sekarang ini is picking up. Why do you think so? Kenapa agaknya? Well, the reason is because of late marriages now. Yeah, people are married at later age, and so and that's the reason why the age-specific fertility rate among the 30-34 suddenly becomes higher, because that's the time when they women are having babies instead of at the early age lah. So the early age they go to college, again the education and so on. So most of them later considered marriage at later age, after 30 years old, for example, and most of them are employed and so on. So that's explain that slightly apa nama ni increase, towards the end. Okay. So this one here, the darker line is the net impact of all these three combined. Yeah, all these three apa nama specific as group combined together. All right. So that's just to explain the graph lah to you, yeah, and what happened. The baby boom, the baby bust. Baby bust is the one when suddenly you have very few babies born. That's when the period called baby bust. Yeah. That's coincide with the I think coincide with the socio-economic, socio-cultural economic conditions, ya. Employment increase for women, women's liberation dan sebagainya, and apa nama ni, number of women in employment ataupun labor force meningkat, ya. So and also in education and so on. Do all those play the individual roles, in affecting the the number of babies or lack of babies born during this period. 1990, I don't know what is. I haven't read all this. What explained for this slight baby boomlet, a small spike, yeah, in the number of babies born in 1990. I've yet to find out exactly. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Apa sebabnya? Yeah? Okay, all right. So I think I'm coming toward the end of my lecture, but before that, let me. Okay, this is the one called this one, first of all, this one, birth rates by age of mother. Jadi, um, this one is, this is by year lah, but overall, what you can see from here is that the overall birth rates throughout the years have been decreasing, yeah, since 2007, right? Tetapi kalau kita lihat by age specific group, um, it seems that the one which which show a remarkable decrease in the number of birth, ya, mengikut kohort adalah di kalangan 15 hingga 19 tahun. This more or less, I think this is in US lah. I think I forgot where it is. Yeah. So this coincide with the what happened in the country. For example, more opportunities for women going to school and so on and so forth. Yeah, and then also between 20 to 34, the tendency for people now to get married or not getting married at all pun ada. Yeah. So late marriages and so on. So less number of children per women within this particular cohort. Ini yang saya sebutkan tadi lah. Yang ini berkaitan dengan all of a sudden this group 30 to 34 tadi. And this is the one, yeah, where you see a sudden a high rate, yeah, among this group, yeah. This one memang kita jangka lah, but this one 34 it should be going down, but it is now the trend in US is it's still high, and that's because of the late marriages ataupun mendapat anak pada peringkat 30-30an selepas college dan sebagainya. Okay, let me click on this one. I can't remember, but I think this is interesting things about this. Berkenaan dengan some information on. Kejap, let me share. This is the one I want to share with you. The highest birth rate now is between 30 to 34. And this ripple effects, this is the ripple effect of delay in marriage, and also birth rates are still falling as well. Jadi just to read a few lines here. What year was this? I forgot. A few years ago, quite current lah, yeah. So not this year, definitely. I think it was about 2-3 years ago. So the annual crude death rate, CDC birth data update, yeah, generates a post very like the one previous year. Okay, but let me highlight a few things here. And this year, for the first time, as the title's first part suggests, the birth rate for women age 30 to 34 surpass ataupun melebihi, ya, that of women 20 to 29. Jadi kalau ikutnya, this is the age di mana bilangan kelahiran paling banyak lah. But it so happened that that this particular period in history 30 to 34 adalah yang paling banyak sekali. Sebabnya, as a result of the ongoing rise, yeah, since 2012, of birth to all women 30 and over, and the ongoing falls and above to all women in 29 and under, especially teenagers. Jadi teenagers tu telah kurang. So the rates to women 35 to 39 began to rise in 2011. Normally it's down ataupun kurang sini, tapi meningkat. And the rates women 40 and up never fell and continue to rise. So when the recession hit and birth rates to young women plummeted, it was predictable that eventually at least some of those women would start having kids, and inevitably they would be older at that point. Jadi Maksudnya, this is the one that I showed you earlier, graph tadi lah. The impact dia, ya. Sebab pada peringkat ini sepatutnya graphnya should be something like this, ya, normal curve, tapi tidak. Ya. That's the reason behind that. Yeah. Okay. You can relate to these two person. I don't know if you know them. This is Colony. Colony is an actor. Eh? And they were married just a few years ago. All right. And so this is just an example of a couple who probably will have children at later age. Okay. So Beyonce, his wife, I'm sorry, Beyonce is just one of the actor, penyanyi, sorry. Amal Clooney is the one, Britney, apa nama, Josh Clooney. This is Josh Clooney and this is his wife. Amal is asalnya daripada Middle East, by the way, I forgot which country, but now living in, I think US, I think, if not England, yeah. Both later mothers having twins, dua-duanya, yeah. So, so women in 30s are now having more babies than younger moms, younger mothers in the US. Yeah? All right, so that's the story that was highlighted dalam yeah. So this example. Maybe some first marriage, some second marriages, and so on and so forth. Yeah, but the net impact is that the tendency for at least in developed countries for cohort yang ASFR tadi, age specific fertility rate itu adalah tinggi pada peringkat umur 30 and above. Kalau dulunya 30 and above itu telah turun ya. Itu yang saya nak highlight tadi lah. Okay, so let's go back to the end part of our lecture, towards the end, saya katakan. All right. Let me share you with another one. Yeah. Oops. Stop sharing. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this is where we're talking about the total fertility rate. Okay. But you can find this from, if you look at from this one, you can look at all this, yeah. Berkenaan dengan net reproduction rate, total fertility rate, and so on. Yeah? You can find it, yeah, from here. The data are available from the Population Reference Bureau, which is located in the United States. Yeah, so of what is happening in the rest of the world, more or less. Yeah. Jadi contohnya, kalau saya nak tahu tentang net reproduction rate, I can click on this, yeah, and then find information on that, what it means, and so on. Yeah. Jadi ini merupakan satu sites which are useful. And if you want to go by regions, you want to see, you know, all those data. For example, like in Asia, what are the current trend and so on. Kamu boleh lihat di sini, ya. Dalam Wikipedia ini bagus juga, tetapi tak boleh di apa nama, that you can rely 100% lah. Some of this maybe some of the information may not be apa nama 100% betul ya. So but anyway, it gives you some apa nama information, yeah. Okay. All right. So I just want to highlight that lah. Okay. And also, if you look at birth rate, for example, you can see the different countries, yeah, in the world. There's so many things in here that you can get, yeah, from this. internet actually. Yeah? Okay, let me just stop that. So I think basically the one that I want to share with you. Let me check udah. Ini berapa minit ini? There's one interesting YouTube.
One book a week. But not many people have time for that. I understand. So I created a company with my business.
The Economist.
Kejap.
In 1950, the world's population was around 2.5 billion. It more than doubled over the next.
Sorry, that one that was the same thing actually. All right. That was the same thing. The same video that I've shot you earlier on tentang the trends and the birth rate. Jadi itu sajalah saya untuk hari ini. More than 3 hours tadi, sangat panjang. But we have covered a very important topic today on birth ataupun kelahiran, fertility, and also so we have been talking about various factors which influence fertility. We have seen some trends throughout the world as well on the fertility rates, right? Trends in terms of overall in the world that the fertility has been declining, but also interestingly, you could see actually certain age-specific groups also trennya berubah ya. Contohnya we expect the highest birth rate should be around 2029, but now in developed countries things are changing, for example, to 30, 35 and so on. Yeah, so that has to do with the development actually, whatever development that occurred in those countries. Okay, so itu saja yang saya nak kongsikan untuk hari ini. Dan so let me stop the recording.